All right, thanks everybody for coming. Great to see you all. Welcome to training pre and post pregnancy with Emelie Forsberg. I just want to give her a warm welcome. So I just want to first recognize your accomplishments as an athlete. I mean, you're a European champion, you're a world champion, you've podiumed on some of the best races in the world, and you know, that's something that you've been doing for the last 15 years or so. Also, one of your biggest accomplishments too is being a mother. You had your first child in 2019, Mai, and your second in 2021. So I kind of just wanted to get, first of all, just hear about, you know, what it's like being a mother and what kind of influenced that decision to become a mother and why it's such a big accomplishment for you.
Yeah, I think I have always known that I want to be a mother, like from young age. And when I became an athlete, as you said, it was many years ago now. I have been running for 12 years at the highest level, and I never saw it as something that would stop me. I just didn't know like how it would work. And what I think is really cool is that it's starting to change. Like 10 years ago, there were almost no mother who were professional athletes, and like it still feels like it's something really new. And like also like, how will you work with sponsors and how will you work with the federations when you have kids? Like when you're pregnant, like postpartum and everything. So it feels like it's still very new. So that's why I'm also very happy to talk about it, because it's like we need to make this something like normal, and like to make it easy for mothers to come back if they want to, and like to create just a space and a normal kind of normalize it.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there, and I think a lot of, well, like you said, brands and sponsors it's still a new concept for some bigger brands of like, how do we, you know, support women and mothers while they're still actively competing and training and want to pursue new goals. And I actually have a quote that you said in an interview that I wanted to read because I thought it was a really powerful quote, but you said, "I thought if I can do something pretty hard for 31 hours, such as Diagonal des Fous, maybe I can give birth, but the reward is much bigger than crossing a finish line. It's an amazing experience, it's a really cool experience, and it's a pity for men that they can't be a part of it."
Yeah. Just on the side.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a huge accomplishment, and I think recognizing that women can do both, you know, podium at some of the best races in the world and also be a mother is really important to recognize. But I wanted to dive a little bit into your training, you know, pre and post-pregnancy. I mean, that's what this talk is about. And I think for you, one of the biggest changes was just the time you have. I mean, so many differences happen, obviously, you know, physically and mentally, but also just with the time you have available. So maybe talk a little bit more about, you know, what was training like before versus after in terms of your time management and how you approach that.
Yeah. So yeah, even if I'm someone who likes to do different things, like I haven't only been focusing ever only on like being an athlete. And before I was a mother, it was like fine because I had so much time in a way. Like I could go out to train like 4 or 5 hours, even 8 hours, and then after I could like lay down and like write my book or, you know, answer emails. I guess I did a little bit more about these kind of trainings that was just like to get hours. And now I'm doing less hours, obviously. But when I'm training, I try to be more like, because when I'm away from my girls, I want to spend the time doing something really good. Like I want to make it count, and that feels also good. Like, and now I know that I have 4 hours and I will do a good training, and it doesn't necessarily need to be like as I planned it, but at least I'm doing what I can to make it good.
So how many hours before pregnancy versus after would you say you spend on a daily or weekly basis?
Yeah, so I was actually going through I had an Excel before. Now I only have my COROS watch. But so it was a bit different because I had more 2 seasons before I was pregnant as well. Now I have been focusing more on getting back to races in summer because you need to choose your time also. And I felt that I lost a bit more of myself as a running athlete than skiing athlete. So I choose to focus on being a runner again. But as I had 2 seasons, obviously I did many more races in the winter. But the biggest weeks of training was more closer to 30 hours and a lot of meters. And now my biggest weeks where I feel that, wow, this is a big week, it's more 20, 22 hours. So it's a big difference.
But like you said, it's, focusing more on the quality and the intensity.
Yeah.
And within your COROS data too, we can see you're actually spending a lot more time in those zones 3, 4, 5, which are more, that anaerobic or intensity zones versus zones 1 and 2, which are more base building and aerobic. So, what Derek, our consumer education manager, was able to see is that you're actually spending a lot more time in those, high quality intensity periods, even though you haven't been able to spend as much time just in that base building phase necessarily. But do you feel like your training has been harder in that sense, or are you doing harder sessions just so that you can maintain that?
Yeah, I feel that I found a good way. I'm still doing, it's really important to do the base training in 1-2 zones. But it's for me, I feel that I got easily back to that zone. So I wanted to find a balance between all of them, and maybe in the winter it's a bit more base building, and then during the summer I can be more in the higher zones.
What about additional things you've done post-pregnancy, such as cross training or strength training? What are some of those tips and tricks that you've had coming back postpartum?
Yeah, I think connecting to that, it's also what you do before pregnancy and in the early stages, because I think it's I can't put enough emphasis or importance behind it, but it's so important to have a strong core, because if you have a strong core, you can carry the belly. It's many kilos that you're carrying here, for the back, and just to be able to run or move as you want. So to have a strong core to hold everything, it's so important. And I think during my first pregnancy I was much stronger, obviously, in the core, so I didn't need to do as much because I felt that I got this. But during my second one I felt that, wow, I really need to build the core back to be able to move without having any back problem, or that the belly is stopping me from if I want to go for a jog or something. And then post-pregnancy, it's really important to first to keep in mind that all the organs, they were so compressed before, and now when your baby's out, it's so much space in there, so you just need to let it heal. And I think this is something that we should really keep priority. This is number one. All the organs need to find their place again before we start anything else. And then you can start with really small exercises, just getting the connection again.
And it's going to be different for everybody. I think that's something that you've talked about before, is that it might be 4 months for somebody, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. It's really about listening to your body, and it also depends on what you've done before pregnancy as an athlete. And like you said, you did come from you had a lot of strength, and you said your core was stronger, before your first pregnancy versus the second time around. So, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody each time. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, after your first pregnancy with Mai, your first daughter, you were actually back on the start line 6 months later for, was it OCC?
CCC. Yeah.
Okay, which you're doing CCC again.
Yeah.
And I know that you did not finish that race that time, which is, it's still the fact that you got to that start line and prepared yourself. Maybe what was that like going back, to race 6 months later? Did you feel ready? Or
I really wanted to come back, and it was a big motivation for me. And I knew that it might be too fast, but I wanted to give it a try. So I think I was physically ready, because as I said, the first pregnancy was much easier for me. It felt like I came back pretty strong. But then it was really mentally hard for me to know that I was away from her for 8 hours. And I know that many people didn't believe me, but it was like, I don't want to spend another hour without her. So that was a big thing. I could have finished, I assume, like you can always walk to the finish line. But it just wasn't worth it. And it was an eye-opener for me too, because with Ylva-Li, our second daughter, then I just decided that, okay, I will not have any race goals for the first year. Just build my way back slowly and like spend a lot of time with her, with them.
So talking a little bit more about that, now that you have that emotional connection to your children, like how has that changed your motivation as a runner, an athlete? When you get to that start line, do you feel like you have a new sense of purpose with that?
Yeah, I think it's like when I was pregnant with Ylva-Li, I was like, am I ready to work my way back? Like to be a professional, you really need to have motivation for it, like for the little extra. The hours might not seem too different from someone who is almost professional, but just to do the little extra, to be on the top there all the time, it demands a big motivation. And I really wasn't sure if I had it. I was looking back, and as you said, I have been in the sport for long, and I felt maybe I'm happy with this. Like I can see so many other things that I want to do in the future, and maybe I'm ready to switch to that. But then one evening I woke up and because there's so many also inspirational women that are like 40, 43, like wow, and I have so many years to become the strongest athlete. And I really believe that I haven't found that yet. And also talking like with the COROS team, I'm someone who doesn't care too much about like statistics or data or these kind of things, but it is super helpful. Like my husband Killian, he's a geek, so he's like, trying just to like help me with this, and it's so interesting and so helpful. Like we're talking training zones and just like to plan the training. So I feel that I haven't really found the strongest version of me. So I was like, now I have the opportunity. Like my partners, my sponsors, my federations, they believe in me and they support me as a mother. So I want to grab the opportunity to explore the athlete version of me. I just decided to give it a go without too much pressure.
Well, speaking of, the training data and the stats and stuff, obviously Killian is very much into that. But you said you've been kind of learning more about it. Were there any metrics that you monitored during your pregnancy and, specific features, whether that was in the COROS watch or just in general?
Yeah, like the heart rate for sure, because like as I'm sure many of you knows, it's not that much information. It is a lot about like go to your doctor and talk to them, and they don't really know anything about training and pregnancy. So it's like, or you Google and you're like, okay, you shouldn't do high intensity, but there's not really any why about it. So it's I just try to listen to my body, and then I obviously had been Googling too, and it said that I don't do too much high intensity in zone 5 or whatever. And then I just decided that, okay, now I'm just gonna tune in and listen to what my body wants. And I didn't want to train interval training. I didn't feel good doing that, so I actually didn't. But I have many friends, a few cross-country skiers in Sweden, very high level, that kept doing that, and that was fine for them. So I think it's very individual, and there's I haven't found any research saying that it's bad for the embryo doing that. As well as when we're going to the Himalayas, about spending time in altitude. Of course, if I would like spend time at 8,000 meters, it wouldn't have been good. But as long as I think you feel good and you're aligned with your body, then for me it felt like just listen to that.
Yeah. I think there's still like a lot of research that needs to be done, and I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of female athletes in my career, and being able to talk to them about that, and also work in just understanding research and studies. And I know that there was a lot more research has come out that supports women continuing their active lifestyle and not having to change too much, to be honest, except for perhaps the intensity or the duration, but still continuing to be active. And there is a study done by West Virginia University that monitored I think it was 57 pregnant women and their heart rate and their heart rate variability. Do you use HRV at all? Okay, you do.
Especially postpartum I did.
Yep.
Because it felt like it's such a good sign, especially if you have been using it, to see is my body working too much? Do I need more recovery, and how to find the recovery? So postpartum, that was really important for me.
Yes, yeah. The HRV basically is measuring the time difference between your heartbeats, and basically the higher HRV, the more variability, the more prepared you are to take on, endurance of it, or just, the more recovered you are in general, and the more prepared your body is to take on really anything, whether that's just to take on your day or, athletic performance in general.
And it's so smooth, for someone who is not interested, know how to do it, it's super easy on the watch.
Oh yeah, super easy. Yeah. Take the reading in the morning and you can have it for the day. But yeah, what this study showed was basically from the time of conception, your HRV steadily declines because your body's taking on a lot of changes, and your resting heart rate actually increases. However, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before you're about to give birth, those numbers reverse. So the HRV skyrockets. The resting heart rate goes down. And that trend, what they found, actually continues for 6 months postpartum. So your body is actually very primed to take on, of course you do have to rest and, listen to your body, but your body's actually, recovering well and working really hard because, I think it knows that you're supporting a life. And so the study was really interesting because it actually had objective data to show that, as a woman, your body is going through a lot, but it's actually improving its health over time after you give birth. So I was wondering, based on that, did you feel postpartum that, you said you were still monitoring your HRV, so did you notice any similar trends like that?
Yeah, after our second one was born, it was, I had a bit of a rough time because it was a lot of things going on. Kilian was in the Himalayas. I had lamps coming on the farm. I had tons of plants. I was a little bit optimistic. This is coming back to being someone who likes to do a lot of things. I also learned now to scale down. So it was the busiest time of my life. So then I was quite stressed. I saw it on the IRHV and I was okay, I need to change something. And I just tried to slow down. The plants died, but it was fine because Ilvali was fine. I measured it and I just realized, okay, I need to work my way back up. And it took time. It was almost a burnout. So I felt that, okay, now I just need to regenerate, get my energy back.
Yeah.
And I was really happy when my RHV got back up again.
Yeah.
And I felt that okay, now I can introduce training again, like, because that's another stress on the system. Like, yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit about your nutrition before and after pregnancy, and if any of that changed, or, you know, I know you're a big baker, you're, you know, a big advocate of healthy eating, and, you know, what did your nutrition look like, you know, after you gave birth? Did you change anything?
Yeah, I think this is, I get many questions about it because I have been a vegetarian many years, and also, like, when you go to your doctor, they say, oh, maybe you should eat meat because pregnancy takes a lot of, like, you need to build yourself up. But I had a doctor who was like, okay, but like I'm also like testing my blood every now and then as an athlete to see that all levels are fine. So I think that's a recommendation to do, even though you're not a vegetarian, just to keep track of your blood values. But I think the most important, especially being plant-based, is to get vitamin B12 and like folsyra, folic acid for pregnancy. But I think this is very standard recommendation, and then just keep track of them if you know that you have a bit low values. Like, I know that I have, it's a pretty hard time for me to like, in the bloods, like, to get the B12 there. So I needed to take quite a lot of supplements at that time. But I'm also coming back to, like, you really should listen to yourself and like check in if this feeling is like on the facts, like, am I feeling good? And after, it was also like, I think for me it took a lot the second pregnancy, because I got back to a busy life and then pregnant again, and it was just a bit too much. So I also immediately, like, my blood levels were so low, and I was really low in iron, and I'm normally like super high in iron. So I was like, okay, I need to change something, and I needed to do a lot of blood tests and like changing a bit my diet, starting eating eggs again and like more dairy products, and that worked. So I think it's really important just to keep a track of everything.
To increase your iron, did you supplement too, or did you do it strictly?
Exactly.
Okay.
So what I needed to supplement was basically iron, omega-3, and the B12.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long do you feel it took to boost those levels?
Took quite a long time, actually. Like, that's why I think it was hard to me to come back in a good shape after like, it was maybe 1.5 years until I felt like I could be at a high level again. So it's also like, maybe we need to be kinder to ourselves, or like to mother athletes. Like, 1.5 years, it's not that long. I just met old friend out here, and she said, it still feels like I'm postpartum, and her children is 2 years old, and like, it's a big change. Like, your energy is often somewhere else.
Yeah, big change with energy, stress levels,
sleep, recovery, everything. So I think we just need to be super kind to ourselves.
What's the biggest lesson that you've taken away as a mother, as an athlete, and doing that together?
Oh, many, but like, lower your to-dos, and like, do you really need to do this? Do you really need to have a super clean house? Do you like really go through these things? And in the end, it doesn't matter. And also, like, to know that changes will be like, be good and adapt. Like, I have a training plan, but does it look like I wrote it down? No, but it can be okay anyway. Like, adapt and make it like, okay, this is how it is, and it will be good.
How do you feel going into your race on Friday?
I feel in a way less ready than I did 2019. But I'm also really looking forward to run a whole day. And when I focus on that, I feel like super happy. So I think I will just focus on that, even though, it's like, oh, I should have maybe trained like this or this and this. But I will focus on the fact that I'm really excited to run a whole day.
And is it going to be a challenge for you being away from your family? And Like,
No. Actually, now we were talking. So Killian and the girls are home, and I'm away for 6 days, and this is the longest I have been away from them. But I'm like on holiday, so no, it feels good. I know they have a great time at home, so I'm feeling like, yeah, I'm having a good time. They are having a good time.
So it's a lot different from 2019 because 8 hours went by and you couldn't be away from them, but this is like your vacation time now.
This is also like the time will come, like, so we should just be in this little postpartum bubble.
Do you have any expectations or goals for yourself, or do you feel like this is just about getting there, finishing, and doing your best?
Yeah, like it's a bit, in a way I feel that it's sad that I don't have a big goal. Like I wish that I was ready for a goal, but when it comes to 100K, I'm not ready to have a goal. I just really want to finish and do it as good as I can. Like now I just feel that I recently just like worked my way back up in having goals in marathon distance, like 5-6 hours. So I feel more confident there, but that's also one of the reasons that I was like, maybe I should try CCC, because my original plan was OCC. But then I was like, maybe I should just try, because it's so exciting and it's unknown for me at the moment, even though I have been running a lot of ultras before. But I'm also a bit driven about curiosity and like the feeling of unknown.
Well, looking ahead in your future as an athlete and a mom, I mean, you said you feel like you still have a lot more left in the sport. And for you, I mean, being an elite athlete is a gift in a lot of ways. But at the same time, you said you would be happy just being a mom. And, you know, both of those are very fulfilling to you in both ways. Do you see yourself continuing to compete, you know, long term in the sport, or are you just kind of taking it, you know, as each day comes, or curious what that looks like for you?
Yeah, so when I decided that like I want to find the strongest athlete in me, I also gave myself a few years, because I know it's a process. So I was like, okay, I can see myself having the motivation for maybe four more years. And of course, like you have low moments. Like it's, as I said, it is a hard work, even though it's a very like luxury to have this work. It's of course the road here hasn't been always easy. Like, you know, you need to work for it. But I want to take care of the work that I have been doing to be able to be here, and I want to like refine it. So I can see myself having the motivation and maybe finding the peak also within four years or something. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of other women you can relate to, or in the sport specifically? I know for me, I'm a track athlete. I'm not a trail runner, but there are a lot of women that I know who have, you know, had children and go on to compete and still continue to make national teams, and you know, but it is different, you know, from before and after. But I'm curious if, you know, in the ultra world and in the trail space, you have other women you can lean on, or other women who you've been able to connect with on that.
Yeah, so that's also coming back to like, it feels like it started to be more and more common. And maybe 4 years ago, I didn't have as many as I have now. Now we are many more mothers in the sport running, and also in the ski mountaineering world where I feel at home. So it's always really nice to share experience, or just like, yeah, someone who understands you in a different way. Like, it's very different from like having a bad night with a child, or having just a bad night like pre-child. Like it's very nice to have people knowing what you're talking about in a way.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of like questions on social media, or you know, do you get a lot of people kind of asking you these things or reaching out to you?
Yeah, I still do, but yeah, my kids are just, yeah, the youngest is 2, so it's normal that I still get these questions, I think. But it's that's also why I said to COROS, why don't we talk about this? Because it feels like it's many questions, and it's just so good to meet and like to share thoughts and experience and just like talk more about it. Mm-hmm. As it's also a bit new, like it's more and more, so it's good that it starts to be Just
Normal.
Yeah.
Normal conversation. Yeah. Well, I want to make sure that we do have time to open up the floor for questions with from the audience. I guess just to kind of close out our conversation, it's been amazing speaking with you and hearing your perspective. I guess what are you most excited for this Friday when you race, and then when you see your children when you go back home?
Yeah, no. As I said, I will just try to focus on like that it will be a good day out. And I think the next 100K I do, I might feel more like ready to race it. But of course, I hope that my fitness is there and that I can push myself for 13 hours. But it's a bit unknown, so I'm curious about it. But yeah, I just wanted to like come back to the strength training because we did like a program on COROS on the app that like just the basic core exercises, and it's like it doesn't need to be that hard to do it because I think if you have it as a routine like 10-15 minutes per day, it can be more than enough like just to build a strong core.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to bring that up actually, because I know that you created your own strength program and you just program it on the watch. And how often would you do that?
It depends, but minimum like 10 minutes a day. Sometimes I change it and I do like 30 minutes and then I don't do the next day. But it's more or less like, 1.5 hours a week in total. But also coming back to the strength, because it's during pregnancy, the transverse abdominals, do you know? It's like the inside. It's not the six-pack we got. It's like the inside. So that's, it was good because I met a postpartum pelvic floor expert, and she said that during pregnancy it's really common that you lose the contact with it, and it's like your spine. So that's super important to get connection with after pregnancy. Because basically everyone loses it during pregnancy, and that was something that I didn't know that I wish I knew, because it's super easy to feel that okay, well, I'm pretty strong, but then my transverse was really weak, so I just needed to work on that. And there are very basic exercises about that, but it's so if you should remember something, you should remember that and Google the exercises, talk to your physio about it.
And this strength workout can be downloaded and shared with anybody.
Yeah.
So we can share that afterwards too if anybody is interested. But yeah, actually one more point too, because the cross training we didn't really cover as much. For you, cross training was just maybe going out for a walk with your stroller for a little bit, just right after pregnancy. But what other cross training did you do, as you continued to build your fitness?
Yeah, so I didn't feel great running after week like 18, but I was lucky to have I was pregnant during the winter, so skiing was no problem. I think for me the fact that like bouncing wasn't super comfortable, so I could do like a lot of training on the skis, and that kind of saved me because I ski during the winter, so I could keep my fitness then. And also postpartum, I felt okay skiing. And as you said, like walking with a stroller is great, and take your time coming back to it. But cross training are great, like with low impact biking or. Yeah,
and the skiing. I mean, that's something that you love doing anyway, and something that you're competitive in. So for you, it's like almost not even cross training because it's what you do. And but yeah, I mean the low impact. I'm sure. So you said about 18 weeks is when you started running again?
No, 18 weeks was when I stopped running, like when I was pregnant.
Oh, when you're pregnant.
Yeah. And then when I started running after my first child, it was maybe 2 months. But then I had like a checkup, and I felt like I could connect to the muscles. And then with Emelie it was 3 months, but I took it very, very progressive then.
Yeah, so I guess after your pregnancy too, about how many hours a week would you say you dedicated towards cross training or training in general?
With Emelie, I was really good. I was like, okay, I will not go for a run until I have done 15 minutes of strength. So that was really good because then I did it, and then I was like, wow, I can go for a little run now. But I think that was really motivating for me to get the strength training done, to have it like before.
Yeah, just start with that, make yourself do that, and then you can focus.
Because that's the most important, and if I have time to run, that's a plus.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I do want to open up the floor to some questions. I'm sure people have a lot of questions. I do see a lot of mothers here as well. So,
and one father, or maybe not.
So yeah, would anybody like to ask Emelie a question? Go for it.
Yes, so I have a question regarding the pelvic floor recuperation. Were you completely recovered when you started running? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, so this is also one thing that, like, it's so weird that you don't get to meet a pelvic floor expert. There's like few of them. Like, I needed to search really long until I found some, because like that's what everyone should check up. Like, it's really important to be like healed before you go out for a run. If not, it can be really damaging in the future. So I met an expert actually in Spain when I was there during a race, because in Sweden, Norway, it was like 4 of them and fully booked. So this is also something that, like, the more we talk about it, the more like we ask for it, the more common it should be, because it should be the checkup that you do. You shouldn't like the normal like 3 months checkup. You go to the doctor and it's like, can you like, do you have like a yeah, exactly, and nothing more. So it's like super weird, and the pelvic floor we should be really careful about.
Do you have any other questions for Emelie?
You got the expert saying it was okay before you run? Or did you...
Yeah, with Ylva Lee, with Mai, I kind of felt that everything, like I talked about like the organs that like you should feel, or like they need time to come back. Like, I was talking to different experts then, but then I also saw that like the day after I gave birth, my stomach was back to this. So I felt that, wow, like it feels like everything is under control. And then I just went to, I actually went to kind of an expert, not someone that, not the same as I met after Ylva Lee, but someone that was like better. And she said that probably if you feel good, that's okay. And then I don't know, like if it was, but I think with Mai it was okay. But with Ylva Lee it took longer time, because like I also felt that my muscles didn't like came back, and like still had a bit of belly, and was like weaker in general.
Mentally and emotionally, you talked about how obviously first CCC after Mai, you didn't feel happy being away from her for that long, and now you're looking forward to being away for a day in the mountains. How does it feel now that the girls are a bit older in your everyday life when you take time to go out? Do you find yourself, what do you think about when you run? You know, do you find yourself going, right, this is my time, or I'm planning something with the girls, or how does it feel?
Yeah, I'm still like the time I choose to be away from them, or that I need to be away from them, like work or other things that I need to do. I feel that I just want to do it good, you know, and the same as the training. And it can be like, okay, now I plan a training just to enjoy, because now, as we talked about, I might not spend so much time in zone 1 and 2, but when I do that, it's like, okay, now I should just be out, explore this, and it doesn't need to be fast, but I think I maybe have more intention behind the things that I'm doing than before. And then I really, because there is a choice also. I could choose, as we talked about, maybe doing something for like work for half time and then spend time with the girls, but I choose not to. So it's, I want to have good intentions behind.
As a mother of girls, how much of it is a motivation to be a role model for them?
Oh yeah, it's like a big thing. I want to, when I became a mother, I also wanted to like become the best and the kindest version of myself. Like, I think, like, I tried to be a good person before, but I feel that I'm maybe trying even more now. I have more, I don't know, it opened my mind in a different way. But I also like, yeah, if I didn't want to, I would love to have more kids. I would love to have like boys, because it's like, I think also raising boys, it's something like very different, and it would be very meaningful, like showing them, like, yeah. I have some friends who only have boys, and when we talk about like raising our kids, it's like different ways we want to show. So it's interesting. But yeah, I want to be the best version.
I was wondering about the period between your two children. Maybe you don't plan it like when you have your first, you maybe don't have any idea about having a second yet. But like looking back, do you feel like it was worth it in between to train, to come back and then go through it?
Yeah, I really think so. Both like mentally, I wanted to like feel that okay, I'm an athlete again, and then we always had in mind that it would be like, I think it's good for our girls to be pretty close, because the way we are living, they have each other, and we can really see it now. Like it was a hard time, like having two small ones, and of course it maybe affected my body a bit more, being pretty close in pregnancies, but it's really worth it now. Like they have each other, so it was worth it.
And did you come back fully, like before you had your second?
Yeah, I feel that I did actually, but then COVID hit. So then it was like, because I was really eager to do a full skimo season and work my way back there. But then all races got like cancelled. So then it was also like a good time to be pregnant in a way. But I lost a bit. Maybe I would have come back in a higher shape before. Yeah, it was a good timing.
Last question.
Well, I guess we all know it takes two to tango. How do you find, I know we all know Killian is your partner, but just as a partner who is also competitive, finding that balance with, you know, your significant other and raising children at the same time, like how did that work?
It works really good. Like I have always seen myself like super, like my partner, we should be like equal. And I know that in many relationships it's not, because like in many countries it's like the women have like a few months more that they can spend with their child. And for me that have never been an option. Like I've always seen myself 50-50, because I think it's really important for me. And yeah, with Killian, as we are athletes, both of us, we could really like we could make our own schedules in a way. And it's very beautiful to see him with them, because they are like, we have really spent as much time with them, both of us, and it's really important.
Well, thank you so much, Emelie. This was a really lovely conversation. We can just give Emelie a hand.
Yeah.